Go. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off a little bit, but first I want to kind of point out a couple things. So the point of following up right now is twofold. One, I want to kind of get a feel from you, how are we feeling, how we're doing, where's our understanding, and two, I want to take a little bit of a step forward and fill out a few methods that we didn't get to, just so you guys can see it and we can do it together. And again, and I know it's hard, but I encourage you, if you are a little lost, even if you don't know how to formulate a question and all you can say is, look, I am like in the weeds, I'm just lost. I don't even know what to tell you other than I'm lost. I would love to take that opportunity to step back and try and go over and see if we can at least orient you somewhat. Again, I guarantee you, if you have a question, someone else has the same question. There's no doubt about it. Okay? Everybody cool with that? I'm going to start off with any questions. Does anybody like something didn't make sense or doesn't make sense, or can we step back and look at X, Y, Z? I'm going to try not to hold you for more than like a half an hour, maybe 35 minutes. No current burning questions, desires. Yes.
Are objects now being saved to?
Yeah, it's funny. We're always going to encounter bugs and things that don't seem to make sense. And when I took this after our last lecture, it worked fine. So I have really no idea why. Yeah, the answer to your question is yes, it's now working. If I wanted to, by the way, which, like I mentioned, I don't. I don't know why it wasn't working here, But every time we find something not working that we expected, that's an opportunity to learn or to debug, which is half the battle. Okay, so we're talking about basically using Ruby now to perform CRUD actions on objects, instances, attributes into a database. In our case, a SQLite database. It's important to note that I mentioned very briefly, when it comes to ORMs, a database isn't the only way. Does anybody know, what can you think of some other ways that we can save information besides a database that would persist past turning your computer off and closing your program? Grace?
Print a hash to like a text file or something?
Yeah, printing to a file. That's a really, I'm not going to say that's a really easy way, but I'm going to say it's sort of a simple way. That's a good thought, which we haven't really gotten into. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt because text files aren't built for that exact purpose of having a program write to them in the retrieved data. You can totally do it, but whereas databases are built just for that. So writing to a file would be one example of being able to persist data. So I just kind of want you to know that ORM pattern can apply across different specific applications, not just Ruby to a database, right? Or just whatever language to a database. So a couple things. I've sprinkled some notes in here, and I've built out shells of what I'd like to get to, which would be to fill out these methods. We may not get to all of them, but I'd like to at least get to most of them, and maybe work out at least one of the hairy ones, such as update. So I want to go back over the pattern of initialize. This comes from calling what method? What method lands us in our initialize? New. So if we call whatever class name .new and pass in some attributes, in this case a name and an artist ID for a fan, that's what gets us into our initialize, but we don't actually save to the database. We just have an instantiated but not persisted object. Does that make sense? An instance of a class after we've run new. Does that make sense? Cool. I also have commented out the method we were using previously, and I'm now going to switch to using the new method that's going to take in a hash of attributes rather than a listed, ordered, rather than an ordered list of arguments that we have to keep track of. Okay? Is everybody okay with that? Is anybody like, wait, what? Everybody's cool with that? All right, don't lie to me. Just kidding. I also added an attr reader for ID rather than an attr accessor for ID. Why is that? Who produces the ID?
Database.
The database. Mr. SQLite, and Mrs. SQLite, produces the ID, okay? Mr. Howard does not. Why is that? Why don't I choose the IDs of my database objects, rows?
Because the database already creates it for you, so why create it yourself?
Right, and why is it important to yield that job to the database? Right, so like, I don't end up with duplicate data, because you can't have, you can't have primary keys, such as an ID, in this case, be duplicate, or you're going to have, you're going to have a bad day. So we have our initialize method, which just takes our attributes and assigns them, but we don't save them until we hit .save. Okay? And what I'm going to point out here is, let's just kind of jump right in here. And whoa, it's tiny. Say when you guys can see it okay. Good? Okay. So if I say, who would like to be a fan of my database? Donovan? Great. D equals fan.new. Tell me if I spell that right. Donovan?
That's fine. It's wrong.
Well, please correct me. D-O-N-N?
Yeah.
O-V-A-N? Donovan? Okay, cool. Pick a number. 7? Okay, Donovan is a fan of number 7. Uh-oh. What's the matter here? What's bash syntax error near unexpected token open parenthesis? Alec?
It means that you didn't put a close parenthesis somewhere properly, and then you didn't put
Very often that's the case with this error, but in this case it's not. What's my problem? I don't have a hash. Okay, that's one problem, but there's an even bigger problem. What didn't I do? Where am I right now? I'm not in a price section. I didn't run anything. I'm just this is my computer's terminal line. It's like, what on earth is this fan.new Donovan thing? It doesn't know how to handle it. So I need to run my file, basically. There it is. Okay, now if I run the same line, which actually I'll just copy over, as Mohammed pointed out, this is not going to work. What's it going to say? Who can predict the error?
It'll send you back the items it needs. It'll say hash not found.
I don't know if it's going to say hash now. It's going to say you're right. I think you're right. It's going to be something about the arguments. What's it going to say?
You gave it to an expected.
Gold star. Nice job. I was given 2 and expected 1. By the way, sometimes this is confusing when you're debugging. So the given 2 means at runtime, either the user or the computer that was running somewhere in the code supplied 2 arguments. Okay, given 2. And expected 1, which means that in the definition of this method, only 1 argument is expected, is prescribed. Or to be a little bit more proper, when the method was defined, it was defined with 1 parameter. Does anybody know the difference between arguments and parameters? The words are often used interchangeably, but technically speaking, what's the difference? Chris?
Parameter is like the argument is what you put into the method, and parameter is just there. It's like a placeholder for the argument.
Did everybody hear Chris's definition? It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Argument is what is supplied. Okay, we supply arguments. Parameter is the placeholder in the method definition. Is everybody okay with that? It's not. We're not going to like send you out of the room if you say parameter when you should have said argument and vice versa. But it's good to know the difference there. Okay, that might even be like I don't know if that would be a technical interview question, but it's really good to know. Okay, so Mohammed, help me fix this.
So we're basically just put both of those into a hash and then the main.
Awesome. I think that'll do it. Right? Perfect. And now we see, if I say, well, let's see. First of all, if I do that, anyone know I got nil there? I'll show you. I took out the method because I wanted to build that with you. So, by the way, this is probably the easiest method. So can we build this really quickly? What do you guys think? What should self.all, in other words, capital F fan.all return? What do you think? Self? Let's see what happens if it returns self. Okay. Oh, sorry. This is part of my problem. I got to remember to exit and rerun. And I'll repopulate, and then I'll say fan.all. Is that what I want? That gave me the class, right? Because self refers to the class. Remember, when I'm pulling data now, I want to pull that data from the database. The database is now our source of truth. If it didn't come from the database, I don't trust it. So how do I, in fan.all, I want all those fans. So how do I make that query to the database? Chris?
Do like I don't know what it's called, but
You want to build a here doc?
yeah,
Okay. Is that what you were trying to say, or no?
that's what I was trying to say.
Okay. So I think that's a good way of doing it.
So then you would do select fans, or select and then the asterisk
Yep.
from fans.
Yep. Anything else? That's it, right? And then how do I actually execute this call? DB, which is our database what? What's that? That's right. It's our instance of our database. Okay, it's our database object that we're using to connect. DB dot, what'd you say? Execute, and what am I passing in? Cool. Okay. Now let's exit this. We're going to refire it. I'm going to repopulate it with Donovan. And then I'm going to say fan.all. Hey, look. That's interesting. How come Donovan's not in our database? I didn't say. That's right. So I could say fan. I don't know if I don't think it's going to let me do this. Nope. Is there a pre-baked-in Ruby find your last instance method? I don't think there. I guess there's not.
You just type D.
Yeah, that's what I was.
What is it?
Just the letter D.
The letter D?
Saved it in the variable D.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's from new instance variable.
Oh, right. Okay, so right. Okay, I did that, I guess. So we see that D is this instance of the fan class. But where does D live? Is D persistent? No. But there it is. So what do you mean no?
It's in RAM,
It's in RAM. What's RAM?
random access memory.
Right. It's in that local temporary no man's land where if you don't get out to a database, when the power goes off, you're gone. Right? So what do I want to do now? D.save. Okay. Now Donovan's in there. Now if I say fan.all, hey, Donovan's there. You're saved, Donovan. All right. By the way, and I kind of didn't realize this, so this is kind of cool to know. Notice that we're getting these, when we call fan.all, what we're getting back is what data structure? Look at it carefully before you answer. An array. An array of what? Hashes. Because, remember, in my config file, I said I want these back as hashes. So I get an array that starts here, ends there, it has all these hashes. Notice that it starts off normally, and we have name key, power, and ID of one, artist ID. But look, notice that we have these guys too. Does anyone want to guess what this is all about? Why do I have 0 pointing to Howard, 1 pointing to 1, and 2 pointing to 32, and so on and so forth? All this is SQLite giving back an index if we ever wanted, like, so let me just show you. If I go back and I exit this, and I go back and I say, give me back my files, Let me go to my config environment, and I get rid of that guy. I rerun my file. I call fan.all. I get these. What am I getting now? Arrays. So I'm getting this nested array structure that just gives me ordered versions of my data. So apparently 0 corresponds to name, 1 corresponds to a cursor. 1 corresponds to the ID, and 0, 1, and 2 corresponds to my artist ID. And that probably relates back, I'm not even sure if we can tell why the order is that way. Probably here, when we save it, that's the order. Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know why it orders it that way, to be honest with you. But I'll tell you that I really like the hashes better. I hope you agree with me. Maybe you don't.
Is that not because you initialized it in that order?
Maybe I did. Let's see. If I go to... So, well, what I don't understand is why would ID come in the middle? Because ID is being injected by... ID is being injected by the database. So how is that landing in the middle?
Well, no, I mean, when you create, like, if you go back to your, when you create a database entry,
Under save here? This is where I do that.
do you do it there?
I mean, I never tell it when to put the ID in, so I do find it odd that the ID shows up in the middle.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, is an even better reason to deal in hashes. And that way I know explicitly what's what. I can't confuse. If I'm using a hash and I'm calling the keys, I'm being very explicit. I'm being verbose. Okay, I can't confuse an ID and a name or an ID with an artist ID, for example. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and say make sure that we are in fact using hashes. Okay. All right, so let's get to building some of these other methods out. Is everybody okay where we are right now? Is anybody? Yeah, Paul.
I missed how it went from an array of hashes to just arrays.
So inside of my config file, when I first declared my database instance, my instance of database, which from in our SQLite gem, DB responds to a number here. Let me show you. DB. By the way, this is a little. It's not really a trick, but if you start like you're about to call a method and you hit double tab, it'll show you the in Ruby anyway, in a Ruby console, it'll show you the possibilities. So I can see all my different methods. Okay, and one of them is, what is it? Results as hash. So if I look around right here, results is, so you've got a getter and a setter for this results as hash attribute, and it's either set as true or false. It defaults to false, and that way you get the nested arrays. Okay, but if I set it explicitly to true, then I get my hashes instead of arrays, which I find much, much more useful. Cool?
Yeah, I missed what you did.
Yep. And by the way, if you're ever here in the terminal and you have this ridiculously long list and you've got 10,000 other things and you're just hitting enter and like going to sleep, just hit the Q button and that'll take you back to your Pry console. Yeah.
Could you just monkey patch it so that it defaults to true? Because I feel like, why would you ever want false patches or something like that?
I'm going to go, and I don't make a lot of blanket statements. I'm going to say generally don't monkey patch. This is, I mean, it's just a setting you can change in your configuration. So just change it. I mean, what's the difference between setting this in a configuration file and like attempting to change what it is in its source, intending to overwrite the source? Like, just change it. And eventually you're not even going to have to worry about it too much. We're going to start using libraries that come with this stuff already in it. Does this clear work? No, it doesn't. Okay. All right, so let's get on with it. First, I want to go over my save and point out that I changed this just a little bit. I still have the exact same SQL, the exact same database execute, but what it was giving me, if I comment this stuff out, okay, and I say d.save, whoops, okay, just want to exit, we're going to reset, I lost my d, Actually, let's just make a new one. Let's see, m equals fan.new. Mohammed, please tell me if I spell this right.
80,
80, like that. And pick a number.
23.
23, okay. Mohammed likes Michael Jordan. Oh, I did it again, didn't I? Name Mohammed. Artist ID 23. Close my hash. Cool. Then I'm going to hit m.save. And notice that it returns that empty hash. But if I say fan.all, Mohammed is definitely there. Okay? And so does anybody remember why we said that is? Anyone? So every time we're in the console and we execute a line of code, Ruby's going to tell us what the return value is. That's why you see this little hash rocket, and then whatever is the return value. So in the case of db.connect, that last line of code from this function, this guy right here, db.execute. Now, even though it was successful, the return value is set default for whatever reason to an empty array, which doesn't make sense to me. So instead of that, I want a little bit more feedback. And so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, does anyone remember what I had before lunch? I basically said find by name. The problem is, what if I have like 100 people named Mohammed? Okay, which is actually it's a popular name, right? A lot of people are going to have that. So I would get back way too many things. What I want is the very last thing that just got saved to the database. And so I have a slightly convoluted way of doing that, which is I'm setting this variable called max ID, and I'm grabbing the highest ID from fans, which returns a nested structure, an array with a hash, or a nested array, or whatever it is. Anyway, I'm grabbing that last ID, I'm packing it into a variable, and I'm saying, hey database, give me that very last thing with that ID. Yeah, Alec.
How did you conclude that the location was 0, 0 in the matrix?
I played with it. So I said, just like this. And this is how you're going to end up finding a lot of stuff.
So it's not like, okay. So I was just wondering if you just like do that for some reason, or you tested it?
I just played with it. Name Alec. What's that?
Would it be 0, 1? Because the ID got stuck in the middle.
Let's find out. Name 01 artist. Give me an artist ID, Alec.
12.
12. Okay, so now I'm in this binding, and let's see what db.execute. Actually, what I'm going to just say is this. So, figuring out how to jump in somewhere and debug is like going to be one of your most valuable skill sets. And so here's what I got back. I got back an array, which is typical, right? This is what we've seen returned from the database. In this case, it's a single object, or I should say a single hash, with 2 keys. One key is max ID, the second key is 0. Okay? So I could say, let's see, result equals this thing, and then I could say result 0. That gives me just the object. Okay, and then I could actually get the same result 2 different ways. I could say, what's one way? Once I'm at result 0, which is the object, what else could I do? I could do max ID, right? Max ID. Yep, I definitely should get rid of the semicolon. And this is all I did. I looked at it. I looked at what came back and said, how can I get the value that I need from this thing consistently? 7. But the way I did it is I said, oh yeah, well I remember that these results come back, and I also get this sort of additional index value I get these additional key value pairs, which are just each attribute indexed. So if all I'm getting back is the single piece of information, then it's also going to live in index. Yeah,
Now, is having two indexes for the same data, does that double up the amount of space that it takes up?
probably. I'm going to say probably not. I'm not positive of that. But I don't think so. I wouldn't think it doubles it. Is it more space? Of course, probably. I wouldn't think it's double. And the way I did it was just because it gives me that zero. The second zero is actually a key. In fact, yeah, we could just do it that way. Okay, that's what I did.
What's the value of the second value, key value over there? 0 and 7.
The value of the second key value pair right here.
Yeah.
So remember when we had a nested array, all you get back is the data in kind of the certain vague order that's arbitrary and hard to read. Whereas if you get a hash back, sounds like football position. You get each piece of data back as a key value pair. You also get an indexed version of that. Do you remember that? Like so, if I did, well, let's just see. If I do, we're looking at it right here. Right. So when I was done saving, this is the last row that I inserted in my fans database. I got my information, key value pairs, keyed by our attribute names, name, ID, and artist ID. Then I also get this weird array that's indexed 0, 1, 2. In this case, 0 corresponds to name, 1 corresponds to our ID, and 2 corresponds to our artist ID. Remember that? So it's just kind of this extra thing that SQLite gives us, which could turn out useful if we know how to use it. Yeah.
Sorry, my last question. You can change that true false statement here, couldn't you? Like you could do database.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yep. Cool. See, now I got a hash. Okay. But I like it to be true. But of course, now I want to get rid of my binding. Okay, so notice that I dropped a question in here. Oh, here, let me show you this problem. I'm going to get rid of this.
Type in reload exclamation, that might just reload everything.
It does. I don't believe that works here. That will work in the future. I don't think that reload. No. There might be a way that I can program that to work, but in fact, it might be like pry dot. I'm not even going to mess with it now. So if I say, let's see, C equals fan dot new chase. Pick a number, Chase. Oh, I got a 0. Ah. Okay, and then I do c.save. Okay, what if I do this again? Is it going to work? Who thinks it's not going to work? Who thinks it's going to work? Who thinks the ID is going to stay the same? Who thinks it's going to be different? Okay. What's happening here? I can make as many chases as I want, right? And each one is chased with the same artist ID of 2, but each time I'm getting an incremented object ID in the row. So, which is fine. What if I wanted to do something like this, though? db.execute. Insert into fans. What do I want to do here? Check this out. ID, name, and artist ID. Values. Chase. Is that going to work? Let's see. so my last ID there is 28. And 2. Is this going to work?
No.
No? Oh, probably because I screwed it up.
Single quotes are adjacent.
Yep. Well, now I've got to figure out how to. Cool. Then I never finished closing my query, did I? Okay. Aha! Unique constraint failed. Fans.id. Okay, so it didn't let me. I tried to give it another ID of 28, and it said, you can't do that. Okay? It waved its finger and said, no way. So notice that the database does come with tiny little bits of pre-built, tiny pieces, and I mean tiny pieces of pre-built validations. You're going to be, as the coder, responsible for implementing most validations that we look at. Okay. So we're just going to work on a couple of the simpler ones of these. We're not going to get too deep because we're going to run out of time. But like, what should something like create do? Yeah. Dan? Cool. By the way, would create need any kind of argument?
Whatever arguments you pass into
Yeah, exactly. So we would need the same hash of attributes that we would pass into new would need to come in to create. And so what would this look like? You want to keep going?
literally copy pasting the stuff from both other functions.
Why would I do that? I could. You're right.
I mean, just call the two functions.
Yeah. Why not just do that? So what would that look like? This is a class method. So what's my self right now?
What are the name of the classes?
Yeah. So I could say self dot. I could also say fan dot if I wanted to. Self dot. What do I want to do? New. With my attributes, pass them along. And then
Just or not save that.
self.save. Right? I could chain them, is that what you're saying? I could put the dot save here, is that what you mean? I think this looks a little nicer. It's like these are two different actions happening. So create is just going to call my new method and my save method.
And save needs to be called on instance.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Cool. So now if I wanted to just go straight up and create somebody and persist them right away, I can do that. Let's see. Y equals fan.new. York, pick a number.
14.
Okay. Feel great. I also forgot that I was trying to create, not call new. Okay. Cool. And now if I say fan dot, well, there they are. Okay, now I've got a whole bunch of chases, our number one contender there. Okay, so that's all. So now we can build this create method. Let's see. How about if I want to? How about? Let's see. I'm going to try and kind of go by the order of easiest. We're not going to get to update, which I wish we would have. But what I'll probably do is end up recording a little bit of supplemental lecture for you, where we'll go over stuff like that. Let's try find. So find is going to take in an ID number, and we're going to try and return, or we're going to return that instance found by that ID. Anybody want to take a stab at writing this thing? Mohammed?
SQL is equal to select star from fan where ID is equal to question mark.
Okay.
then you want to do the database. Do you have to do the configuration? You can just do execute.
What do you mean?
Did you? Oh, you didn't.
I didn't use connection. I just declared a simple instance.
And then you put ID for your.
Right. Cool. I think that looks good. Let's try it. So I'm going to exit out of this. And I'm going to say, let's jump back in. Fan.find. And looks like we have a pretty good number. Anywhere in the 20s, I think we're going to get back Chase, except for 29. Uh-oh. Oh, what did I miss? Why did I get that error? Let's see that error. Undefined method find for fan class does not exist. I tried to call fan.find. What's my problem? It should be a class method. This is a class finder method, right? Cool, there he is. All right, what if I try and find someone who doesn't exist? Get back an empty array, which for this case, that's fine. An empty array makes sense to me. It means it wasn't found. Yeah.
Yeah, as, when you wrote that method, you said it equal to a question mark. Can you? What? I haven't seen that. I just haven't seen that.
Say that again. When we did here.
Yeah.
Okay, so SQL, I could also probably, I don't know if I can interpolate inside of here. I think I can. I could also do that. I'm not, it doesn't look like it's picking it up.
I don't think you need the extra case.
This is all, oh right, because this is already going to be a string. So I could just do this.
I think so.
Let's try it. Yep.
So that's just
So-
the argument.
Yeah, so this is so the answer to your question is that this is a SQLite convention or a SQLite functionality, I guess would be a good word for it, where if we need to deliver a query and parts of those queries are going to come from variables, then I can just put question marks anywhere there's going to be a variable, and then in terms of the execute, we'll just list those. These have to be in order. So in this case, it would be ID. If we fire off, like up here, did we do the same thing here? Yeah. So I did the same thing here. I had 2 question marks, and those 2 question marks are replaced in our execute query. That we can also do that in a regular inline SQL statement. And at the end, you just have your you close your statement inside of the quotes still, and then you add the value of each question mark in order. Can be interpolated or not. Yeah, Alec.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's also for security reasons too, the question marks, because if
Go
you
on.
with the question marks, you can inject anything into the SQLite syntax,
Mhm.
and you could potentially, like the example you gave at the end of the last lecture,
Right.
inject delete all tables.
Yes.
If you don't.
All right, so this is
Question marks protect against that.
yeah. So exactly. This is I can't give you super duper specifics, but SQLite, when we use the question mark syntax, like Alec was saying, we'll look at that and make sure it's not full of semicolons and double dashes and terrible things that would take a database and drop it to its knees. So that's another, I'm going to say very small, but it's another piece of validation that SQLite does ship with. Okay.
So if we just do a string interpolation in instead of passing an integer ID, could we come up with a string that we could pass to that current find method that does interpolation that would do something bad?
Let's try it. This sounds like a good way to end this lecture. I like this. Some deviousness. Okay. What do you guys think? Do we remember how Bobby Tables pulled it off? Anybody?
You need to get out of the stream first, right?
How's that?
You need to get out of the stream or in the stream.
Okay, so help me out, Alec. What am I going to write here? I'm going to try and take down this database. I want to drop this table or something. I don't know, whatever you guys want to do.
I remember seeing a semicolon in the Bobby table's name.
Okay, so like basically we see that we're starting with this query and we're get to right there.
So where ID equals, can you just enter anything and then semicolon to end it and then start a drop tables?
Let's try it. So let's try 10. So in other words, you want to do something like this,
Yeah.
and then drop table fans, like that. And then the last thing I think he did was a dash dash so that anything further would be commented. My heart's racing, guys. I don't know about you. I don't know. Oh, I don't know if that worked. Man, that's so fun. Okay, it didn't. That did not destroy our database.
Let's put out SQL before we run it.
That's what?
Let's put the SQL before we run it.
Okay, good idea.
Oh, we need a curly bracket, don't we? No.
Okay, so SQL is select star from fans where ID equals 10 semicolon drop table fans semicolon dash dash.
Shouldn't the 10 be on the other side of the quote?
How do you mean?
Because you want to close the other quote. Because you want to close the original quote.
Oh, so you want to start an entire new one? So like,
No, go back to the 10. So you remove the 10 and put it before the quote. Or you just, you just leave it like that.
like that?
Yeah.
It's not going to know. I don't think it's going to know what to do with that. Yeah, it doesn't. It's expecting that we're not done. What am I expecting? Here we go. Boy, we're not very good at devious hackers right now. Let's see if we can figure this out, though. What do you think? What could we put in here that would do it? So this is what we had. What do you guys think?
Where do you put this quote in single quotes?
This just whole thing?
Yeah.
Is it the dash dash at the end of it? Because it seems to be included in the string. Print it out.
Ah, stupid quotes. Alright, didn't do either. Our nefariousness is shrinking. What do you guys think? I don't know. I really don't know how to.
Add a quote in front of the colon. Like the double quote in front of the colon. I'm sorry, before.
Here? Wait.
So it should be single quote, double quote, double quote, then colon, and then right.
Like that?
Oh, no, you don't want two double quotes. You don't want one single. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Homework assignment.
Homework assignment. Figure out how to destroy this table. So I'm going to comment this out a little bit more, and I'm going to encourage you to, if you take a break from labs, to go and work on maybe filling out the rest of these methods that aren't done yet. Don't get too crazy frustrated if you're having a really hard time, because something like update, if you do practice it, you'll realize like it's a little bit more in depth than you think it might be. Let's see. Anybody have any questions before we break? Yeah. So this is just an introduction. We've got a lot yet to cover. That's okay. We'll get there. If you're feeling a little hazy or feeling a little foggy, that's totally fine. Please continue to bring us your questions, and thank you for your attention.